Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmaster, and most welcome guests. WIIFM normally stands for What's in it for me? But I'm going to expand on that for the purpose of this talk to be more than just that. What's in it for you and me is the way I would like to say it. What's in it for you and me, for you and me, and for you and me? I'm going to explain a bit of this by telling you a bit about myself, and especially two events that were Toastmasters really came to help me. And I should mention along the line too that I've had a lot of fun with Toastmasters too. But here are those two stories. Back many, many years ago, when the Chalk River Toastmaster had just recently been formed, a lot of the people that I worked with were a chatter about this new thing that was going around. Well, it didn't interest me too much at that time because I was absolutely terrified of public speaking. In fact, I had such trouble with public speaking that I even had trouble on one-on-one communication if that one was an authority figure. And when it came to this leadership thing, I always preferred to let other people do that. It was just something I had nothing to do with. So this probably was obvious to my supervisors at that time. And one year, one of my supervisors, who had obviously been involved in the Toastmasters, suggested that I should join Toastmasters. He thought it would be good for me. Well, again, at the time, I thought of Toastmasters as something highly, scary thing. Like, I thought of Toastmasters as a bunch of sadists who would prop victims up in front of huge crowds and make them sweat blood. Well, that's about how it would have been for me anyway, at that time, to be able to do what I easily do now in terms of public speaking and leadership. So, that, unfortunately, that meeting, that recommendation didn't mean a thing for me, not positive anyway. I took no action on that. And then, very next year, a different supervisor, also familiar with Toastmasters, obviously, had recommended that joining Toastmasters would be good for my career. It would help me a lot. Well, my attitude hadn't changed at all at that point, so I, of course, didn't jump at that opportunity at all. So then I went and I went about my life as usual. And one lazy Saturday afternoon, I was channel hopping through the TV channels looking for something to watch. All these professionally made shows held my attention a little more time than it took me to click the remote control to move on to the next channel. Then I came across the community channel. You know, those amateur productions. And perhaps because it was just so different, it caught my attention and I hesitated. And then I realized I was watching somebody give a speech. I didn't realize it quite at the time, but this was an area contest that had been televised. It showed a gentleman standing on a makeshift stage. I think it was little more than a pallet. And he was describing his first skydive. So initially I saw a gentleman standing on a stage, dressed up in a suit, like we always did during Toastmasters at that time. And he was describing his story about going high up into the air, about walking out to the edge of the airplane where the open doorway was, about grasping hold of the edges of the doorway. Suddenly I was no longer watching a gentleman give a speech. I was now watching somebody in my mind as he was getting ready to jump out of the airplane. And then he did a little hop. And suddenly, he said he was flying. That caught my attention. Enough that later on that week, I spoke to one of my friends who turned out to be a Toastmaster. And I got invited as a guest, not to one, but to 2 different clubs. The Chalk River Club and the Deep River Club. Went to both of them with this person, who later became my mentor, by the way. And she showed me how much fun and interest it could be going to a Toastmaster meeting. About how welcome I felt as a guest. So I joined the Chalk River Club, and again my mentor helped me get on with my first icebreaker. Oh, that was terrible. That was an awful lot of work. I procrastinated and practiced and procrastinated. I did everything I could to avoid being up here doing my first speech. It was probably my worst speech I ever did. But it was one, if not the most important speeches that I ever did, because it got me started public speaking. I read every word that was on my prepared notes. That's okay for an icebreaker. You can do that. It's allowed. And when I was finished, I remember afterwards, in a bit of a buzz, I can hardly remember what happened after that for the whole rest of the day. But I do remember my reviewer, my evaluator, telling me that I did a great job and congratulated me on my effort. That got me started. Now, along with that sort of feedback and feeling welcome each week coming out, to come out to the class, to come out to the meeting, I felt right at home, I felt good, and I progressed through the Toastmaster ranks to the point where I got good, solid skills in communicating and in terms of leadership. It got to the point where, rather than shying away from helping out and getting things done, I got right in there. If not led in doing it, I assisted to lead. What some people call leading from behind. The job gets done faster that way, gets done better in many different ways. These were my Toastmaster skills as they were being developed. So that's how I started in the Toastmasters. And it helped me a lot in my progression through the ranks. But one particular event really jumps out as to when it really, really made a big, big difference for me. In this case, I was on a project, a very big project that had a very large number of people from the Chalk River site involved in it. And I thought it was a really great project, but through outside influences, the project was canceled. Just bang, no warning whatsoever, just bang, it was canceled. So a lot of people like me found themselves with no work to do. Fortunately, well, for a lot of us, the company really took it upon themselves to try and keep us working. So they had a job fair where they found places for everybody. Not necessarily the best jobs. What they had lined up for me was a very junior position. I was a senior tech at that point, but very junior position that I know I would have hated working at. But fortunately, I had the option of competing with the professional level. Remember, I'm technical. I had an option to compete at the professional level for the jobs that were available around the site. Earlier, before my Toastmaster skills, I wouldn't have even attempted that. Now I had the confidence to do it. But there was 2 steps here. First of all, I didn't really qualify for the job. So I had to do this leadership from behind bit. I had to exercise my communication skills to grease the rails, to make sure that my application wouldn't automatically be disqualified because I didn't have a degree. So I talked to various different people that I knew through my Toastmasters organization, through other ways, but mostly through the Toastmasters organization. The people I worked with that were in the professional staff, and the ones who were in that branch, that for one of the particular jobs that I thought I could do well at the professional level. So, first step number 1, get the interview. Got it. tick. Got the interview because of my personal contacts that I had developed over the years. 2, I went to the interview. There was a committee, a hiring committee there, interview group. 5 different people. Walked in, acknowledged the people I knew, introduced myself to the people I didn't know. Great start. Proceeded to absolutely ace that interview. I had the job. There was no doubt in my mind whatsoever after I finished that interview that I had the job. I made a big difference in my life too. Up to that point, I was on the technical scale, near the top of it at that point. And in order to make the tiniest little increase along my career, pay-wise, I would have to walk on water to get the tiniest little increase. Well, I then jumped up to the professional scale, where if you just showed up and breathed every day, you got a big increase. And I did a lot more than just breathe every day. I excelled at that new job I had. I did great. Not just my Toastmaster skills, but a kind of accumulation of all the skills I had accumulated during that time working at CNL. But selling yourself and having that leadership ability was a big part of what helped me in that new job I had. It was not just a technical, although I had some technical aspects to it. It was a very interesting people-type job. So that's how I succeeded with one of the biggest opportunities in my career. During the time that I worked on that, I had tremendous time, met a lot of people, had great opportunities to enjoy work. In fact, I enjoyed my work so much that rather than retire at 35 years, which is the amount I could, I worked up until I had 43 years in. I just enjoyed what I was doing so much. Again, Toastmaster skills make a huge difference on how you can enjoy life. Now, I've described a little bit of my life, how Toastmasters has helped me. How about you? A lot of people have to communicate in their job. And a lot of people, too, find that they have to make decisions in their life. Making decisions, by the way, is what leaders do. It can be small things, or it can be bigger things. And perhaps some decisions you should touch with management and make sure it's okay before you do it. But my experience is that a lot of managers and supervisors want you and me, to make decisions on a routine basis to make their jobs work well. And of course, success is one of the best ways of proving that your decision was right. Now again, earlier in my career, I would shy away from making decisions, being worried that somebody would judge me wrong on it. Of course, a bit of experience in making judgments over time and seeing how well it worked gives you confidence as well. But I would not have had that experience if it hadn't been for my opportunities that I got because of my increased communication skills and my leadership skills. So what am I leaving with you people? I recommend you come out to Toastmasters once a week as a guest at start. There's nothing wrong with that. You can decide over many, many meetings to see if this is something you really want to do. While it's an all-volunteer organization at the club level, above that there is a management level that requires money. So you do have a membership fee to pay each year to Toastmasters International. And for some people that can be quite a challenge. And maybe an absolute deterrent. But it doesn't stop other people. All people. There are ways of getting around that financial problem too. Keep in mind that Toastmasters is a very good investment. The cost of joining and your annual fees it really is very little compared to the benefit you're going to get out. And did I also mention, in addition to how great it is for your career, I found it to be fun. And I expect you too will have fun with Toastmasters and the ability to communicate and help other people as your experience gets better, as your skill set itself gets better, by spending time and going through the proven technique and methods of Toastmasters. So, I hope this addresses the question of what's in it for me, what's in it for you and me, what's in it for you and me, and what's in it for you and me. Madam Toastmaster.